Hello, my friends. Should I tell about corruption in Ukraine? Of course, I should tell about corruption in Ukraine. I'm, after all, an independent journalist, so it's my duty to tell truth. Whether we like it or not, but the truth is the truth. It should be delivered. And nowadays, scandal in Ukraine with corruption is the biggest one for entire period of Ukrainian independence. And who are involved out there? Zelensky's friends. Yeah, as for Zelensky personally, there are no direct accusations yet from Anti-Corruption Bureau, but maybe with some time we're gonna see some of the new materials uncovered because NABU, National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine, uncovered lots of the stuff on his circle, Zelensky's circle, and they are saying about thousands of hours of recorded audio and some of the other proofs and materials which were uncovered during the searches of apartments of those who were involved into this criminal syndicate by the time there is the war, full-scale war in Ukraine. The scandal is so big it went to the international media. Of course, Ukraine corrupt scandal explained the 100 million plot rocking Zelensky. So Zelensky's friends are involved. That's why Ukrainian people are now asking whether Zelensky was involved and whether he knew about what was happening in energy sector. Because the scandal itself was around Energoatom, that's the energy sector of Ukraine, and energy is very important. It's the security of Ukraine. Energoatom means nuclear energy. There are multiple of the nuclear power stations in Ukraine, and they're crucial for Ukrainian energy stability because Russia hit all of the thermal power plants, so it is the most reliable source for Ukraine to get the energy. And just right now, Russia started to attack the substations of those nuclear power plants. It is very dangerous. But those guys involved in this corrupt syndicate, they decided to earn money on protection of the substations and other facilities of Energoatom. Also, they force subcontractors who do whatever job with Energoatom, and Energoatom is the state-owned company, they force them to pay 15% extra, and that 15% extra from any sort of the deal went to the pockets of those corrupt officials. And before we saw 100 million, well, it's not 100 million. We're speaking here about potentially billions of dollars. 100 million is what National Anti-Corruption Bureau tells right now, uncovering just a single source where those money went. And as in a good detective novel, they publish more information almost every day. And as for the 12th of November, by the time I'm recording this video, I tried to collect everything we know about the case. And we're gonna mention almost all of the persons involved. Well, the idea of the scheme is that subcontractors should have paid those extra money. Sometimes also government-owned subcontractors, so budget money were spent for those pockets of those corrupt officials. And if they didn't want to pay extra, well, there are some of the sanctions applied by this shadow management of Energoatom, because Energoatom has its own management, but on top of it, there was this criminal syndicate, which is connected to Zelensky. I'm speaking about Timur Mindich, who somehow left Ukraine a few hours before his apartment was searched, and Timur Mindich is the co-owner of Quartal 95. That's basically an organization which made Zelensky who he is right now. Timur Mindich was owner of that company together with Zelensky, and then Zelensky won elections in 2019. Somehow Timur Mindich started to own lots of the stuff, and their friendship went even tighter. We know it because Zelensky was even using Mercedes that belonged to Timur Mindich. They also partied together many times, celebrating birthdays and many other stuff. And there was a big scandal. Then there were restrictions, COVID restrictions applied in Ukraine. They were celebrating the birthday in apartment of Timur Mindich, where NABU installed the special device, by the way. From that apartment, all of the data is coming, most of the data. It was kind of similar to Boris Johnson's scandal, also COVID restrictions, but they partied. But this party is nothing compared to what was happening in Mindich's apartment. But let's go back to Energoatom. There was definitely a blackmail of those subcontractors who already signed the contracts with that company, state-owned company. For example, if they didn't want to pay 15%, their contracts been cancelled, and the new contracts were done with companies which belonged belong to those officials who were involved in this criminal syndicate. And if they didn't have specific companies, for example, to build protection of the substations, well, they basically bullied and blackmail the companies to force them to pay extra. There was even the threat for one of the companies that they're gonna mobilize all of the personnel of the company if they wouldn't agree to join this corruption scheme, mobilize their people for army. So is there a Ministry of Defense also involved in that? Well, National Anti-Corruption Bureau says yes, it's not just about energy sector, it's about energy and defense sector. And they promise to publish all of the information with some time. As I say to you, every day they publish more and more details. They do it for a purpose to check out the reaction of the Ukrainian government, and there are already multiple of the arrests of multiple of officials, but top ones involved in the scheme, they unfortunately left Ukraine. Again, there is the question of how it was possible for them to leave Ukraine. For example, Timur Mindich, how did he know about the search of his apartment before it happened? Well, the Special Anti-Corruption Prosecution Office already opened the case on it. I have the information about how potentially it could happen. There was the lawyer involved in the scheme who obtained the information and passed it to Mindich. The information about the search came from the Special Anti-Corruption Prosecution, unfortunately. And Mindich, he has 3 of the kids, which gave him the right to leave Ukraine. And the border control, they were not informed at the proper time not to let him out. And now Mindich, well, he's in Israel. At least from the information we have, he's in Tel Aviv. I guess I already showed this photo on my previous videos. This is how Timur Mindich looks like, and he has Israeli passport. But I haven't shown this photo. This is Timur Mindich wearing vyshyvanka with Israeli stars, and also Israeli citizen Alexander Zuckerman, who also was included in the scheme as a money bag. Both of those gentlemen are now under investigation. They're in a suspect list for bribes, for corruption schemes, and both of them left Ukraine. Probably they are, well, you know where they are, I already say to you. And it's going to be a very, very long process to deport them to Ukraine back. By the way, FBI also involved in this situation. I wonder at what level, but the information came that FBI is interested in money that were spent for maintaining Ukrainian energy sector. And there is the chance that those money were taken by those 2 gentlemen and others involved. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's not an Israeli star, it's the Star of David. Yeah. So that other guy, Zuckerman, is also under investigation in the United States of America in a money laundering case, according to Ukrainskaya Pravda. Also, the former Deputy Prime Minister Chernyshov, by the way, here we see his beautiful face, he was involved in the case. So he took 1.2 million and 100 euros from probably Zuckerman, because Zuckerman was responsible for obshak, we call it. Well, this term is used by prisoners, that's how they call their budget money. So with some contributions from each one, obshak, it means something common. So Zuckerman was responsible for this obshak. And by the way, this guy Chernyshov was fired in June this year after allegations went live from National Anti-Corruption Bureau. And you know who is Chernyshov? A friend of Zelensky. He was freaking appointed to his position by Vladimir Zelensky. And after the scandal of Nabu, he was resigned, but he didn't resign himself. It was a big scandal, once again, after which he was forced to resign. Maybe Zelensky told him to resign because he doesn't want to be involved openly in those schemes, but I think he knows about it, or knew, how it's better to say. And right after this Chernyshov scandal, also summer this year, Zelensky with his members of parliament decided to block Nabu independent. I think you remember how Ukrainians protested against that Zelensky's decision to eliminate the independence of those very important anti-corruption institutions in Ukraine. And finally, under pressure, Zelensky was forced to backtrack his decision. And by the way, Zelensky canceled the independence of Naboo that time. He signed this to the law. Well, I think he changed his mind not mainly because of the protests, and those protests were kind of big sometimes, but because he also faced the pressure from our Western partners. They told him, Zelensky, what are you doing? And people protested because it was kind of the Yanukovych-style move that might potentially cancel the Ukrainian perspective to join EU, European Union. Because even during Maidan of 2014, people were protesting against the laws which were taken by Yanukovych. And now we have Zelensky, who basically does the same stuff, canceling Ukrainian vector to join European family. Of course, people didn't like it. They went on the streets, and luckily Zelensky backtracked that decision. And now, with the current scandal, we understand why Zelensky wanted to basically cancel NABU and Special Prosecution, Anti-Corruption Prosecution Office of Ukraine. Because, yes, they were digging under his close friends, including Timur Mindich, and back then we had the rumors that NABU started the investigation against Zelensky's friends. Well, I remember how NABU director was asked the question whether they started the investigation against Timur Mindich. Well, he didn't confirm that, and he didn't say no. And actually, the current investigation is ongoing already for 15 months, so indeed, they were digging down under Timur Mindich, and not only. Also under this guy, who was appointed by Zelensky, and many more. Right, now let's go back to Energoatom. Its revenue per year is $4.7 billion, according to NABU. But not just Energoatom was involved. It is just right now they're releasing the data about Energoatom. More companies are involved and will be shown in these schemes. That's why I'm telling you there will be billions of dollars, not just 100 million as mentioned initially. And the fact that persons involved already left the country shows that definitely they were involved. The NABU say that Zuckerman activities were in turn controlled by Mindich from the upper floor of a building of Hrushevsky Street, an apartment reference to the building where both Mindich and Zelensky have apartments. In tapes there were conversations between Mindich and Halushenko. Halushenko is also one of the Ukrainian ministers, who, by the way, was resigned. He didn't resign himself. He was forced to do so, but he is not dismissed completely. He is now temporarily out of business, something like that. So still they want power, even with those scandals, they do not resign themselves. And who is Herman Galushenko? Well, he used to be the energy minister of Ukraine till this summer of 2025. And after this year, he became the Minister of Justice. Yeah, guys, sometimes I'm laughing about American politics, but in Ukraine, with those corrupt schemes, well, I cannot laugh because those are the lives of Ukrainian soldiers, you may understand, yeah? If Ukrainian budget money went to their pockets, it means that they were not used by Ukraine as the country, they were not spent for Ukrainian military. That's why I'm actually speaking about this stuff. To cause some of the changes, I understand that my voice is relatively small, but there are lots of the speakers out there, and my duty is to continue to spread real, truthful information. And you know who appointed this guy on position of the Minister of Energy of Ukraine? Try to guess. Yes, Zelensky. April 29, 2021, even before the war, Zelensky signed a decree nominating Halushenko to the post of Minister of Energy of Ukraine. The appointment was formally approved by parliament. So in Ukraine we have this some sort of the nonsense. Then those figures, they're not proposed by parliament as it used to be in a normal state. In Ukraine it is all done from above, mainly by a single man, Vladimir Zelensky, who has his party solo majority in parliament. So basically he controls everything. Well, not just Zelensky himself, but also a head of the president's office, Andriy Yermak. Well, Yermak is not in the scheme so far, but I'm sure that NABU may dig something on that guy as well. And you know what? Halushenko was the vice president of Energoatom before he was appointed to his position as the energy minister. And he is one of the key players in this corrupt syndicate. The latest news about him here: Ukraine Justice, Energy Minister submit resignation amid corrupt probe. Oh, also we have the ex-defense minister involved, Umerov, by the way, citizen of the United States of America. Anti-corruption prosecutor Sergei Savitsky said at a court hearing on November 11th that Mindich had allegedly committed his crimes by unlawfully influencing Halushenko and former defense minister Umerov. Well, so far there are no robust proofs against Umerov, but I think he was involved because how else you may explain that he was resigned this summer also. It happened right after Naboo Gate scandal that was caused by Zelensky and his party this summer. Yeah, then protests erupt. So after that, after Naboo was restored as independent institution together with Anti-Corruption Prosecution Office, defense minister somehow resigned. Strangely, no reason was mentioned. Well, Umerov is still in Ukraine. Maybe they're gonna speak with them. The ministries where Umerov now works did not respond to requests for comment. Umerov denied accusations, saying he had cancelled a procurement contact with a company linked to Mindich because the products provided were of low quality. So now they try to separate from Mindich. Oh, this is the fresh one. Damn hot, appeared just right now. Naboo will open the case against the deputy of the National Bank of Ukraine, Dmitry Olenik. So, is there any kind of the sphere in Ukraine without corrupt officials? Well, something tells me that probably not. And you might remember this guy. Who is he? A former Ukrainian defense minister, Reznikov, who was involved in corruption schemes. Yes, and he was not prosecuted. He's now some sort of the lawyer, and as it is reported, he left Ukraine and lives somewhere in Spain. Occasionally he visits Ukraine, yes, just occasionally, if he has some of the business. That's the defense minister, yeah. Defense Minister Reznikov under fire as corruption probes rock Ukraine. Never-ending story, guys, never-ending. Former Ukrainian Defense Minister Reznikov investigated over corruption and dismissed. Yes, investigation was open, but it ends nowhere. Well, even if they investigate, can they catch that guy and bring him to Ukraine? I don't think so. He's sneaky beaky, maybe also in Tel Aviv or somewhere now. Guys, you understand, yeah, what is happening? Most of those people involved, they're not even Ukrainians and they have multiple passports. And you know what? Even Russians are involved in this scandal that is happening right now. The guy named Andriy Derkach, who is actually a proved traitor of Ukraine. He used to be a member of Parliament of Ukraine, but later on he left to Russia and now he is a Russian senator. But you know what? Somehow he still had the office in Ukraine, and that office was used by that criminal syndicate. Yes. Okay, it's definitely we're going deep to the rabbit hole today, don't we? This guy is working for Russian FSB, and he was involved also, well, at least his office, and in this case, him as well. And now let's speak about the moral part of the story. Guys, Ukraine is at war against huge enemy. Ukrainian energy sector is very important for Ukraine. Our people are staying without electricity. They're suffering. And those guys, they are taking money from Ukraine. And there were the cases already uncovered and published. Then they were saying, okay, maybe we should wait a little for better subcontractor or for someone's different subcontractor to sign the deal with those 15% extra. So they were not focused on protecting the infrastructure, but they were focused on money, to get money to their pockets. Moreover, subcontractors were involved in repairing energy infrastructure of Ukraine, those substations of Energoatom and different facilities. And from every sort of the job, 15% went to the pockets of those bastards. At least 50%, that is what was proven by Naboo right now. And again, it's just the tip of the iceberg, guys. They are just starting to uncover names and those schemes and everything. I bet there are hundreds of the officials involved in those crazy schemes. Well, today some of the officials of Energoatom were arrested, totally 5 persons. One of those is Lesio Stimenko, who is the director of the back office of Energoatom, whatever it means, back office. Naboo says that she was involved in the money laundering. And Zelensky for the second day says that he supports this investigation against his friends, his circle. Well, what else can he say? At the same time, Ukrainian media associated with Zelensky, they tell different story. They now accuse NABU, Anti-Corruption Bureau, for some wrongdoing, that they want to destroy Ukraine somehow. But at the same time, NABU does really outstanding job. It's very good what they are doing. Those corrupt officials who were appointed by this guy should be in jail. And if we start to look in the past, for example, speaking about Ivan Bakanov, who was appointed as SBU chief of Ukraine, who has Russian deputies, I mean really Russian with Russian passports. And because of the inaction of this individual and action of his Russian chiefs, actually the southern part of Ukraine, mainly because of this reason, was occupied. There was even some of the demining of the roads out from Crimea. Why it was done, why Ukraine was not protecting the southern part, because Russians actually took Kherson as it is, without any sort of the fight. Antonovsky Bridge was not destroyed by the time. Nothing was done to hold Russians, and just by miracle they didn't occupy Mykolaiv, Odessa, and so on. It was the local resistance at that stage. What happened to the south? Zelensky and Zelensky's friends. Why Russia occupied Mariupol like that, and all of those settlements were taken without any fight. And during the summer counteroffensive of 2023, Ukraine wasted so many soldiers basically for those green patches. What? And only after some time Zelensky suspended security chief whom he appointed. And who is Ivan Bakanov? Again, his friend from the Quartal 95 organization, who has nothing to do with SBU, a very serious organization, but he was appointed for this position. For what reason? Zelensky. And of course, he messed up with his job. Absolutely. He is incompetent freaking fuck who maybe was even working for Russians. We don't know at this stage because his misaction led to what happened. More than 60 former employees were now working against Ukrainian Russian-occupied areas. Total of 651 collaborations and treasons cases has been opened against law enforcement officials, he added, and those were working on this guy. He totally messed up. In the video address late on Sunday, Zelensky said such an array of crimes against the foundation of the national security of the state pose very serious questions to the relevant heads whom he appointed, his friends, freaking friends. So all of the Zelensky's freaking encirclement is either corrupt, or they're incompetent, or they're traitors. And people tell that Zelensky knows nothing about it, that he's like, whoa, what is happening around? The corruption, wow, maybe we should close NABU. Well, guys, if it looks as a fish, if it swims as a fish, it means that something is fishy here, isn't it? Here we may draw even the parallel with Epstein case. Like, there is no proof for now that Donald Trump is in the list, but he does absolutely everything to hide the list, to hide any sort of the information. He cancels even talking about Epstein. Are you still talking about Epstein? No, it was a long time ago. I'm not involved. No. So with all of his actions, FBI actions, prosecution office of the United States of America, everything of that tells that he tries to hide something. And even without the absence of the actual evidence, the list itself, the visual information, some sort of the video, we might tell that the case is fishy for Donald Trump, judging on the history, his good relations with Epstein himself. So here is exactly the same story. Zelensky might not be involved in corruption. Well, at least right now there are no proofs against Zelensky. But telling that he didn't know what his friends were doing, come on, I don't believe it absolutely. And the worst thing that it is happening by the time Russia attacks Ukraine, this big enemy, and still government officials and managements of the government, companies, institutions, they're involved in this corruption. Guys, if they are doing it right now, at the time of the war, it means that they will do it after the war. What is the perspective for Ukraine? Ukraine should change somehow. People themselves, they went on this revolution in 2014. Back then it looked like a victory, but what we have? Every president is freaking corrupt or has corrupt people around. The same stuff. again and again. I'm freaking tired of this, guys. This is nonsense what is happening. Our guys are dying for what? For what are they dying on the front lines? Fighting against the big enemy, then they have the enemy behind as well? Guys, I am very disappointed. I want to scream. I want to rage. Then I speak about corruption. You might see me like laughing, smiling, but it's like to cover my anger. Really, it is what is happening. It's outrageous, unhinged. I think that by the time of the war, corruption should be equal to treason. Yeah, and there should be, in Ukraine, by the way, for treason, there is the life term in prison. So for every sort of the freaking corruption scheme, by the time of the war, there should be a life term in prison. As for me, and it's not just my idea, it's the idea of many Ukrainian volunteers. Guys, on my channel, I speak about the things as they are. And what Ukraine may say to Western partners: support our energy, please. Yes, we're taking 15% of the contractor money to the pockets of our criminals, but please help us. Yeah, what is happening? I'm sure that Europe will continue to support Ukrainian military because it's their own interest for Ukraine to withstand against Russian aggression, because Russia, after all, may occupy Ukraine. There could be also a Chechen scenario. They might get rid of Zelensky, put Ukrainian Kadyrov in power, and attack European nations together with Ukraine. Also, it could be like that. This variant is pretty much possible. In 1999, then Putin came to power. No one thought that Chechens will fight for Russia. No. But Putin destroyed Chechen cities, including capital city of Grozny, caused lots of their life losses, and now they have Kadyrov army, who is fighting for Russia. Yeah, it's not that capable as some of the Russian forces, but still, they fight. And Ukraine could follow the same steps without the military support, right? So Europe understands that, and they try to avoid this scenario just to secure themselves. I'm sure that they know who Ukrainian government really is with this corruption and everything, but they're closing their eyes. Well, luckily now many of the Western media sources, they write about corruption in Ukraine. And maybe that might change something, yeah? Some of the attitude of Ukrainian high top-rank officials. But with the current government, I don't think it's possible. Do I support elections? Russia may use elections to propel their own candidates, or they might disturb Ukraine from inside. I would like to see new faces in Ukrainian government. I would like to see even new president, but it's not the proper time, I think, for it, for only reason that Russia may destroy Ukraine from within. That's the only reason. I think if Nabu finds something against Zelensky directly, I think Zelensky should resign in this case and pass the power very fast to, let's say, prime minister or someone, because if he is definitely involved in corruption and if it would be said openly, well, our partners will not meet with Zelensky in this case. It's too much. Also, Ukrainian society, just imagine this. This is like a nuclear bomb now. The remains of the trust between people and government was destroyed. Like it's gone. People hate the Ukrainian government in Ukraine, mainly because of the stuff I say to you. And Russia likes that. There are many of the Russian speakers who tell and put their own stories into this corruption, yeah. But I tell the things as they are, and luckily we have independent sources. You cannot hide this information. And I'm also happy that some of the pro-Ukrainian YouTubers are telling about it. Like, for example, Artur Regi. On his channel, he published the information about it. Maybe I opened you more details, and it's not the last video I'm recording about this case, I think, because it's just the start. We'll see where it leads, but yeah, Ukrainian government is absolutely not competent. Ukrainian military command as well. Ukraine needs reforms right now, or Russia will occupy Ukraine in this case. I have no doubts. If we stay like that, if Ukraine stays like that with the current government, with the current army, without any sort of the reforms, yeah, Russia, at least till Dnieper River, they will occupy Ukraine. I'm sure about it. In the coming couple of years, maybe 3 years, and we'll see about Kiev. We'll see, because now there are so many problems, guys. Yeah, I know I sound pessimistic, but that's the variant I see. What is unveiling in Ukraine? Yeah, we should be honest about the current situation. And the Russians, if they're bypassing now defense line, I'm gonna record the video about frontline update a little later, and we'll see what is unveiling in Zaporizhia Oblast, in Dnipropetrovsk, how Russia is bypassing Ukrainian defense, how Ukraine is unable to build a new defense, maybe because money were stolen, and now it's too late to build those because Russia hits Ukrainian engineering infrastructure, our workers who are building those lines right now. Oh, now we need to build the trenches because Russia penetrated the previous one. Maybe it's better to make those trenches at first properly, at the proper place, because Russians just bypassed those in Zaporizhia. Now they're breaking through. By the time some of the local TikTok kernel commander, I told about him before, says that, oh, no, Russians were stopped. Then you see map update, Russians took 3 settlements. Russians took 2 settlements. Like, guys, with this video, I want to be honest with you. I understand it's kind of long. I rarely record those kind of the videos, but I'm really frustrated. I completely down by what is happening within the country. Our guys are fighting against 2 enemies, really. It's up to the people behind, actually, the front line, to fight this enemy from within. And it's up to our military to fight the enemy directly on the front lines. And I know that in the comments, many people would say, oh, Zelensky is a hero, Zelensky. Guys, Zelensky, you know about Zelensky from your social media, from posts online, from TV, from posters. He created this look. This is not him. This is how he presents himself to you. Do not associate Ukrainian president with the Ukraine itself, with the Ukrainian people. It's different. Associate Zelensky with his friends. Tell me who is your friend and I tell you who you are, right? And he's very good in it, in creating this PR character, because he built his career acting. He is acting like that. He acted as a president of Ukraine in a serious show, and people elected him. They wanted him to be a president because they saw this character on their TV. They thought that it will be in real life like that. But no, he messed up with absolutely everything. He is a classical populist politician who promises, but never introduced his promises into real life. Absolutely. I didn't vote for him. And after this, I would never vote for him once again. Ever, never. Never, ever. Fuck. Guys, I'm so emotional today. I understand that many people will unsubscribe or dislike this video, whatever. I don't freaking care. I'm who I am. I tell what I should tell as an independent journalist. Fuck those corrupt officials. Fuck them. I'm here also a voice of Ukrainians. I'm here to improve Ukraine. I want to tell to Western audience as well what is happening. We need to press this government to act normally. We need to press this government for reforms, especially in the army. And our volunteers, our officers, they all call for it. But it doesn't happen. Everything is the same mistakes. I mean, on the front lines and in politics, everything is the same. Big Soviet Union will defeat small Soviet Union. That's what I want to tell. And probably it's my last remark for today's video, my friends. If you want to support the job, as usual, Patreon is in the link below, or membership, you can just press join button. I hope to upload more content, to find the time to upload more content for my supporters, because you guys, you make my job, make this content possible, let's say. I'm sorry, I'm not in a good mood to record videos today, but it's my job, so I will record one more and publish it as soon as possible. Maybe tomorrow morning. I will see. I'm very disappointed about events. See you guys. Ciao.